So a director from Firewalk Studios, the people who made Concord, recently joined Halo Studios. That's right, you did not hear me wrong. One of the key people behind one of the biggest failures in gaming history recently has joined up with Halo Studios, but it might not be as bad as you think or some people out there will lead you on to believe. When I say colossal failure, I mean like one of the biggest failures in gaming history right here, where it's reported up to $400 million that it cost to make Concord, and PlayStation made none of that back. And if anything, it might actually be beneficial for this person to come over from Firewalk to come work at Halo Studios for what they did over at Firewalk, which might be surprising to hear from a lot of people out there in the gaming world, because we like to focus so much on positivity. In a post on their LinkedIn profile, they said, "I am happy to share that I am starting a new position as the Senior Product Marketing Manager working on Halo at Xbox. Our first order of business, more cat helmets." Clearly a joke, right? Let's not take that too seriously, but if there were more cat helmets, I actually wouldn't be too upset about that. Now, I'm sure many of you people out there are probably breathing a fresh breath of air. You're like, oh, thank God they're not actually making the game itself. Well, marketing does play a huge part in how a game is presented and the tonality behind the whole thing, and marketing has been an issue with Halo for quite some time. I'm sure many of us, first thing that comes to our mind is the marketing that came with Halo 5, which actually was phenomenal marketing. But the biggest issue with the marketing is that it wasn't representing the game properly. And so we never really got the true sense of like what Halo 5 was going to play out like until we actually played it. And then that's actually what led to, I think, a lot of negative reviews on that, a lot of negative sentiment behind Halo 5, because it wasn't the game that was marketed to people. Concord, on the other hand, was exactly what the game was, right? That wasn't the issue with Concord, that it was actually marketed rather accurately. We saw the marketing material, people played the game like, yeah, this is exactly what we saw that we were going to get, and it wasn't really that interesting. It wasn't that people wanted, but at least it was true and faithful to the content matter. The only issue is that the content that was in the game was something that people were not that very interested into. And also this could potentially open up the idea to having more external media involved with Halo. I'm sure many of us remember the painful story that went around last couple months saying that Halo Doom crossover was actually pitched for secret level and then shot down for whatever reasons Microsoft wanted to shoot it down, which just hurts my Halo heart so much. But do you want to know one game that actually did get a secret level episode, which is hilarious because the game actually shut down before the secret level episode ever actually released? And that was actually Concord, and it got an episode, and a lot of people actually said they really enjoyed it. Me, I found it kind of, mid. I didn't really get too excited about it, but it's the fact that it was part of this series. This is Amazon's largest animated series launch ever. So to be part of that is really big for the marketing of a game. So to be able to have that kind of connections and ability to reach out to beyond the media of just gaming in general is actually pretty big for Halo. And this new person over at Halo Studios was the director of marketing and operations for Firewalk Studios. So they were definitely involved when it came to being part of an external media like Secret Level. As part of the Halo team, there'll be the senior product marketing manager that we talked about earlier, which actually really doesn't have as much weight and as power as they did as the director over at Firewalk Studios. Actually looked over the job description of the senior product marketing manager here for Halo, and a lot of it's pretty standard stuff, just like brand recognition, figure out strategy to reach as many people as possible. There really wasn't anything out there that was like glaring when it came to this job description of like, oh my god, they're focusing on AI or looking to go, the Concord route or anything like that. I think it's more just that they were able to show someone that has like capabilities of being someone who's been in gaming marketing for quite some time, understands that kind of like maybe sci-fi fantasy kind of game style that obviously Concord, I think, was actually doing a pretty decent job of reaching out to people. Like I said, the only issue was like the gameplay and the game itself wasn't something that people wanted. Compared to the Halo franchise, which is obviously something people have been desperately wanting to see succeed for the longest time and just hasn't been coming around the last, 10, maybe pushing close to 15 years now at this point, since 343, now Halo Studios have taken over the reins when it comes to the management of the Halo franchise. And like I said, Halo Infinite seemed to be a step in the right direction. And if anything, Halo Infinite was doing just about everything right, but the engine was the biggest thing holding it back, and a lot of tech debt, making it so that it was very difficult to develop for the game. But like honestly, everything else besides that was pretty good. The gameplay of Infinite was great. I felt the visual art style of Infinite was fantastic. Now moving over to the Unreal Engine, having them focus more on the creative side of things when it comes to making Halo, rather than trying to be a software engineer and a game development studio at the same time. This is something they've mentioned previously when it comes to Halo. So something of being able to combine the marketing power that Concord had and bring that over to Halo is actually something that I would be rather excited to see. Call me crazy, because at least you fully understood when Concord was coming out. You knew about the game. All eyes of the industry were on that game. So that's why it made such a huge flop for Concord, because it was the entire gaming industry looking at it. We've seen other games with large budgets that had even more of a flop, but people didn't even care to see it, because there was this game that recently actually got completely canned, and that was Unknown 9 Awakening. You guys probably out there, a lot of you probably didn't even hear about this game because of how poorly marketed it was. And population-wise, this game actually flopped even harder. With the current player count as I'm making this video, there are 7 people playing this game right now. All-time peak at 285 players. This game came in with an absolute dud. It was no interest in this game at all. No one even thought about it. Not even know it released when it did. And Unknown 9 Awakening was not some little tiny AA game that flopped. This was a game that had millions of dollars behind it. They had a full belief that this was going to be the next big hit. They had DLCs already planned for the game before the launch even happened, hiring one of the prestigious actors within the industry, especially in the gaming realm. If you remember this actress from the Witcher show, that she now had fully voiced the character, did motion capture for this character as well. Like, it was not a cheap game to make, but yet nobody really knew when this game launched, because of the marketing and awareness for this game was so poorly made that, yeah, it just kind of came in under the radar and people didn't realize it happened. I mean, there was a slight player count bump because of Moist Critical recently playing it on stream to, I think, peaking around like 25 concurrent players playing this game. But again, like, this game again as well didn't really capture the interest of players, and the gameplay behind it from all the reviews that I've looked over for this game are not very favorable as well, just like Concord. But the thing was that, like, the marketing for it was just non-existent. And that's the both sides when it comes to this current story I've been seeing going around in the Halo community. Like, one side, like, oh my god, someone from Concord's working on Halo, game's over, doomed, everything's awful. And the other side of things, I'm like, well, when you think about it though, it's actually not too bad of a move. And from all accounts that I've heard of people who worked at Concord, right? People who worked on the game itself, and also the upper management kind of thing, is that it was actually a kind of a toxic work environment, mainly because of a toxic positivity, because the executives behind PlayStation really believed that they had a Star Wars-like potential when it came to Concord. And so they really wanted to make Concord a thing. But from all accounts, from people who are around Concord or people who are not the executives, all kind of saw the writing on the wall even before this game launched, and they realized, like, this is going to be a game that's going to have some issues. But of course, you can't say, like, hey boss, this game sucks, you know, and stuff like that, because that's where this toxic positivity comes from. You can't be honest with people above you, because they'll probably lose your job. So they're doing the best that they can given the situation that they are in. And also, it wasn't like Concord was a bad game. Actually, it functioned rather well, had solid mechanics, but the problem was that it just didn't have interest from players, because it was another 5v5 arena hero shooter that we've seen over and over again, and this game didn't offer anything interesting or exciting for players to jump into, engage with, compared to what we see like now with like Marvel Rivals taking advantage of the mechanics within that, and seeing how they're able to capitalize on like this traditional IP that they knew that was going to be successful, implementing new gameplay mechanics and stuff like that, like really being innovative in the realm of hero shooters, which we've seen get rather saturated in the last few years. Like, if we just look at the just raw reviews of Concord, you kind of see what I'm talking about here. But like, for start with IGN, it's kind of always a good spot to start off with. Of course, we all have our opinions about IGN here, but They rated it a 7 out of 10, like it was a good game. And the Metacritic review here being 62, which is probably right about right. Like, yeah, most people were just kind of mid on this game. Like a yellow score would be like 70 to probably 50 to percent rate there when it comes to scoring. Obviously, user reviews or just kind of review bombing it just because they want to send a message that they're tired of light service hero shooters, which kind of makes sense. But you can see like overall aggregate scores for the game, it just wasn't like a bad game. It just wasn't interesting. So I'm saying you put that marketing power behind a game that people would be interested in with Halo, I think there is some potential there that we could see something bright in the future when it comes to the franchise of Halo. I don't want to get your guys' hopes up too much. I know how hard it is for so many people to hear positivity around Halo, but I'm trying to look at this like glass half full situation because like there's not all bad when it came to Concord. There's some decent parts that came with it, but the worst part about it really was just the lackluster gameplay and things like that. But if you bring over that marketing power that we saw and the willing to branch out and experiment with gaming in different forms of media, with Halo, with a franchise that people are genuinely excited to play the next edition in, no matter how negative people seem to be online about it, people want more Halo. And so I think it's going to be potentially like a really good thing for the Halo franchise, but of course we just have to wait and see until we see more. Until then, guys, I appreciate you watching. Leave a like if you liked the video, subscribe if you want to see some more content from me again, and if you want to see who the real ones are made this far in the video, leave a green heart in the comments. I'll make sure to like you guys out there. Thank you all for watching, greatly appreciate it, and I'll catch you on the next one. Peace out.